Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, all across the country. So there'll be many people watching and joining us. Thank you, everyone who's tuning in or using social media to participate in this event. Brave New Films, for those of you who haven't been with us, is a small, nonprofit, social justice company. We're based in Los Angeles, and we use film to tell stories. Basically, we tell stories about people. We often say, putting a face on policy. And many of you, I'm sure, have read about the small businesses and PPP, what's going on, the fact that large corporations who have lobbyists, who have access to elected officials, who have access to banks, are receiving a disproportionate amount of the money that's been available. Hearing these stories and reading about them is one thing. What the team at Brave New Films did with Amanda and Emma is they went out and talked to people in Arizona so that we could more personally understand exactly how it is impacting people, exactly what it means when we read a statistic that says 21% of small businesses may go out of business permanently if they don't receive more help. So think about that. Think about what that means to people's lives, not just those who are employed, but to the life of a community, to the fabric of our country, if that number of small businesses, and maybe more, are no longer with us. And as we know with access, people of color are disproportionately harmed when the deck is stacked so that the big companies and the companies with lots and lots of money and resources and access are able to get millions and millions of dollars. So the film that you're about to see, and it's 7 minutes, and then we'll have a discussion right afterwards with people in the film and people on the ground and advocacy organizations to understand what you can do, how you can use your advocacy, your right to vote, to impact and to make sure that your voice is heard as loudly as possible. Because we're a nonprofit, the film is free. It's available to everybody all over the country. It's available to all of you on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter, to screen it, to show it, to energize, to organize people, because that's where film, with its ability to tell a personal story, can be most effective. So thank you, everyone, for joining us. And Renato, now, if you can start the film, and then we'll be back right afterwards with a discussion from people in the film and about the issues presented. Thank you.
My name is Stephanie Vasquez, and I'm from Phoenix, Arizona. I am third generation here. My parents, they boldly moved here to Phoenix. We had no family here in Phoenix. They came out here and attempted to figure out what it was like in this big city. They had that very strong work ethic and sense of family pride. I never once thought that I would start a business. I was leaving the country for the first time, actually, and went to Costa Rica. And I go on this coffee plantation, and there was just beautiful rows. And I had no idea that coffee was a plant.
However, it was watching the people as they're cultivating the land. They would hand over this cup of coffee to you, and it was done with pride and with love and intention. Like the teacher that I was, I just kind of went into research mode. Fast forward 14 years later, here we are sitting in my coffee shop that I never once in my life had any aspirations to begin.
When my mom decided to open the cafe, I was just turning 7 years old. So every single Sunday, we used to have breakfast at the cafe. I don't think I ever realized that it was her cafe. I just thought that we were coming to work, and I was like, okay. It's definitely apparent to me how hard my mom works to get to where the cafe is at today.
It's been spaces of healing, it's been spaces of celebration. So when we say the business is thriving, I know the business part of a lot of people's mind goes to money. This is a thriving business for the impact that it's created here in the 4th largest city. Yes, I understand the odds are still against me. I look around in my neighborhood right now, in my business neighborhood, and there's not a whole lot of business owners that look like me. I know that. I know when I step into business meetings and into boardrooms that a lot of the people don't look like me. If you can pick a worst time for COVID to hit, this is the worst time, because this is when restaurants prepare for the summer.
Arizona, an emerging hotspot.
Arizona hospitals are overwhelmed.
2,000 people have died in Arizona since the start of the coronavirus pandemic.
Cases spiking in Arizona.
When this first all started, I was like, what is a pandemic? I had a meeting with my team and I talked to them how we were going to handle it. 2 days later, sales immediately went down minimally by 50%. 2 days. I have never, in the 14 years of business, seen something that hit so hard and so fast. So there was a delay in response from our leadership.
Issuing a shelter-in-place order, something that Ducey has said he is neither ready nor willing to do.
Why wait till it got to be 100 cases? Why wait till it gets to be 500 or plus?
I run the social media for Trade Café. So when my mom's telling me to post that we're closing, then I was like, okay, this is a really big deal, because how are we gonna continue?
And I feel personally responsible for my team and their families. So for me, I have to be able to look at myself in the mirror. At the end of the day, like this, yes, it's a business. However, people before profits, 100% all the time.
The Senate passing a $2 trillion stimulus bill.
The CARES Act.
That bill includes $350 billion in aid to small business.
I'm not sure if people know that most small businesses don't have, it's less than 50% of small businesses have 3 months of monies set for them to lean back on.
$350 billion payment protection program quickly ran out of money. But after the program dried up, it handed out millions to corporations and left small businesses without a dime.
As the coronavirus got worse and worse, my mom started applying for grants, and there was never a moment where she was like, well, this is happening, like we can't do anything. She always was doing something for the cafe for us to stay afloat and having ideas and things like that. But when it started getting more severe, I definitely was in fear for our employees, mostly because I kind of grew up with some of our employees, and they're like family. Like, we go to their family barbecues and they come to ours. When we're telling them that they don't have work anymore and they have to file for unemployment, it's a little sad.
So letting go of the team, laying them off, was a horrible feeling.
How are they gonna pay rent? How are they gonna feed their family?
I absolutely love my team, adore them. So they know that when business comes back, that they will have a job. However, it's when business comes back. Everyone knows now the first round, there was no small business, at least none that I was made aware of, or none that I could find on the list that actually received funding the first round. A gentleman asked me, he said, Stephanie, did you get the PPP loan? And I looked at him and I said, no, I did not. because it was almost like a joke. Like, we already knew that small business really wasn't going to get it.
The $350 billion stimulus money that was meant to save small businesses in response to the pandemic is not necessarily going to small businesses that need it.
Lots of investment banks, there are private jet management companies that got PPP loans. There really isn't a lot of restriction on the eligibility. A lot of the wealthy and well-connected were the first ones to get loans. While they were getting loans, some small businesses went out of business entirely.
Working in a small business, you know how much the loan would have helped.
A lot of that money's been going to massive chain restaurants and corporations, taking advantage of funds that ran out very quickly, funds that actual mom and pop small businesses desperately need to stay afloat.
I did get the PPP loan in the second round. And for a lot of small businesses, you're going to hear the same story, is that it wasn't enough to sustain a whole lot. I've utilized those resources 100% for payroll. I brought back a total of 4 people. However, that money is gone, and it's been gone, and it was solely used for payroll. And I do sit here thinking, you know, I would bleed less if I shut down.
My mom is amazing. She never made me feel like that the cafe is like gone.
I know that Trade Café will survive the pandemic. Now, what I don't know is how, or what it's gonna look like, or how it will be. There's no way you can go through this trauma and come back the exact same.
So thank you everyone for watching, and there will be some opportunities for questions when we finish for members of the press, when the 3 speakers have finished. And we'll first start with Thomas Barr, who's the executive director of our local First Arizona, which is the largest local business coalition in North America. Over 3,000 business leaders, owners, and operators that Mr. Barr works with and inspires and helps guide. He's also an active member of the community. And with that, Tom.
Robert, thank you so much for having me.
My pleasure. Our pleasure.
Yeah, so we're just, sitting here representing and speaking with and continuously advocating for the importance of the community realizing that what we've experienced through this pandemic is what we've known all along, and that's the exposure of the weaknesses of our economic systems, which benefit large corporations, non-local businesses, and people that are not in our communities, that do not have the best interests of our communities in the forefront of their planning or of what they think is important. And so while we've continued to advocate for the support of local businesses, and we've been an organization doing so for over 18 years, this pandemic has allowed the community to really see that while we've always advocated for the support of local businesses, now is the most critical time that we need to not only support them, but ensure that we educate ourselves about the importance behind that, how our economy is structured, supporting communities of color, ensuring that all businesses that are small, that are struggling, have access to the resources and the finances that are critical to help them sustain and weather the challenges through the pandemic. We've heard from businesses throughout Arizona and through our partners throughout the country that, this is not over soon, this is not over yet. And we need to continue applying pressure. We need to continue elevating the need for the support of local businesses. And people can do that through a lot of different ways. They can do it through supporting them every day, and they can do it through registering to vote. They can do it through ensuring that they've completed the census and were properly represented. We know that small businesses are more likely to represent communities of color and business owners of color. And so in order to grow and continue building a thriving economy, it's only going to happen through a strong small business infrastructure. So we're proud to continue elevating the story of Stephanie and Fair Trade Cafe and the many, many businesses like hers that need our support.
Thank you. And thank you for the work you're doing. And I think the work you're doing, and Stephanie, and then we'll hear from Silvana, it's really important that there's an ongoing discussion right now in our country, an important one, about structural and systemic racism and the effect that's having on people's lives. It's not a big abstract concept. It's people's lives that are affected. And that's why when we heard the story of Stephanie, we felt it would be an important one that we would move forward on. You know, as a small nonprofit, and you know this, every time you decide to do one thing, there are 20 or 30 other things you can't do. So Stephanie is an Arizona native. She's a graduate of Arizona State University. She was a middle school science teacher. Among her many, many actions and things that she's done, she founded Women of Phoenix. And the cafe itself has become a place for students, business leaders, organizations, politicians, all to get together. And so with that, Stephanie, I don't know if she's turned away. I don't know if she's hearing me. Stephanie? Stephanie? I guess she doesn't seem to be getting sound, I guess. Stephanie? You're on. Can you hear me? Stephanie, yes, there you go. Okay.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for giving me space to share my story. However, my story is not unanimous to me alone. It really is symbolic of what most small business owners really are going through. And fortunately for me, I'm actually here in my business today. We are 4 days into reopening our doors. And there is a lot going on. You'll see my fourth grader behind me. He's at home school. And again, this is what small business looks like. This is what it looks like. And it is so imperatively crucial that not only the community supports us, however, our policies and our leaders understand our stories and react quickly. So again, thank you so much for all just giving that space for us to advocate for ourselves and share our stories.
Well, thank you. And a reminder to everyone watching, whether you're on Facebook or YouTube or Twitter, or I assume eventually we'll make versions of the aspects of this available on TikTok. You know, it's most important that you share this, that you spread the word, that you encourage your friends and neighbors and relatives to be able to take action, to vote, and other steps that can be taken. And with that, I'd like to introduce Silvana, who is a baker's daughter and a chef. She comes from a long line of cooks and chefs. She was trained by her grandmother and her parents. Now she's training a next generation. She's also in the Arizona Culinary Hall of Fame.
Hello.
Good morning, and thank you for joining us.
Hola, hola. Well, you know, thank you for, again, Stephanie, you and I share a brain, you know.
Oops. I think you froze there for a minute. Looks like Silvana, you're frozen.
My sister. I see that. What can I do?
You're back now. We're hearing you now. You're live.
Sorry.
That's okay.
I'll blame it on the cat. Always do.
There you go. You want to start again, please?
Yeah, no, I want to thank Stephanie because she's my sister during the pandemic.
Frozen again. Unfortunately, I wish there were a good sign language that I knew. Silvana, you're freezing and we're not able to hear you continuously. So I think what we'll do is, Renato, if you're ready, let's move on and see if there are any questions from any of the press.
Can we try calling back if you like?
You think we'll have better luck if you call back?
It's worth a shot.
You want to try giving us a call? In the meantime, a reminder to any members of the press, if you have questions, use the chat function or raise your hand, however you're most comfortable, and then Renato will figure out how to get those questions to us. So we'll wait a minute and hopefully, there we go. You're back.
How you doing? So, I was saying, Stephanie, you and I were sisters during this pandemic. And it looks like I'm freezing again.
No, you're good.
So, we kind of created a bond and a support system. And her story is my story. We closed down because we were socially responsible, because we felt that it was a necessary thing to immediately flatten the curve. What has happened in Arizona is proof of, we could start with the PPP. That was, a fanning of the flames of institutional systemic racism, coupled with good old-fashioned cronyism that, again, sends a message to a person that looks like me, who's a lesbian, who's marginalized, who's a Mexican, who is marginalized already by religious rights and everything else, contempt prior investigation, if you will. I knew that PPP was just a dream, but I went after it. And it was proof that, again, I had to close a restaurant and cry on social media because I captured the filming for somebody to feel sorry and open a back door and give me some money for the PPP. But other than that, I would have been gone a long time ago. I really feel like my restaurant's at a respirator. And although I have to say I'm 60 years old now and my hand is on the cord every time, and I feel like grandpa's on the respirator. Every time I'm about to pull it, grandpa has a little surge and kind of, oh, what's going on, and then he goes back on that respirator because that's what it feels like. And the high road, the easy road would be sell what I got, which is not a lot, but I have a house in Mexico that's paid for. I am very resilient. I'm a Phoenician. I will be successful. But when I ask myself, how about the staff? How about the people who have been with me minimum 12 years to 24 years? That's my family. I've been with them in better relationships than I do with my own personal family, my birth family. So I cannot look the other way. I forget that I'm a guerrera, soy mexicana. I'm a descendant of the Aztec line. Zapata and Moctezuma are my ancestors. And I believe that what Zapata said, I'd rather die on my feet than live my life in my knees, and walking away and taking the high road would be doing that. But boy, isn't this a fun time? Are we not seeing the ugly head of systemic racism? Because it starts with racism. It doesn't end with that, it goes on. I can go on and on if you like. Get another hour or two. We could talk about appropriation. We could talk about I was a finalist for that, and it's not happening. And my message to them was, good for you. I hope you look in that mirror, and it's not with these little pink roses. You have to look in that mirror. I did an event for them. Everybody was blonde. It was all females, but everybody was blonde. And I called them out on that because, again, the tapestry of this valley is a multiple colors. Not only is there racism, there's ageism too. Now I'm getting older. Hey, you know, I got to watch out for us old ladies. But the truth is that in my career, if you haven't made it and you're my age, you're not slinging in the kitchen. And those are things that now where we're looking at, you know, being poor, the pandemic is just really a magnifying glass. So thank you for doing this. This is an amazing time to be able to shed light on this.
Well, thank you for participating. And Renato or Josh, can you let me know, are there questions or shall we conclude? I don't have the controls there. Renato, any questions that you see? I'm saying
we seem to be good.
What does that mean? There are no questions right now?
No questions.
Okay, great. Well, thank you everybody who's viewing us wherever you're viewing. Again, please make use of the free film, advocate, organize, help spread the word, and vote, vote, and vote. Thank you, everybody. Bye.